Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm absolutely delighted you've decided to spend some time with me today. Whether you're listening whilst commuting, taking a walk, or simply having a quiet moment to yourself, I want you to know that what we're going to explore together today could genuinely change the trajectory of your life. Today's topic is something deeply personal, yet universally relevant. It's about those three simple words that hold extraordinary power. I can do it. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Sounds a bit simplistic, doesn't it? But bear with me, because what I'm about to share with you isn't just positive thinking wrapped in pretty packaging. This is about understanding the profound psychological and practical mechanisms that separate those who achieve their dreams from those who remain perpetually stuck in the realm of what if. Let's start with a fundamental truth. Every single achievement in human history began with someone believing they could do something that others thought impossible. From the Wright brothers defying gravity to Marie Curie breaking barriers in science, from everyday heroes starting businesses in their garages to individuals overcoming personal struggles that seemed insurmountable, it all started with I can do it. But here's what's fascinating about self-belief. It's not a static trait you either possess or you don't. It's a skill, a muscle that can be strengthened through deliberate practice and understanding. The neuroscience behind this is absolutely remarkable. When you repeatedly tell yourself, I can do it, and back it up with action, you're literally rewiring your brain. You're creating new neural pathways that make confidence and capability your default setting rather than doubt and limitation. Think about a time in your life when you surprised yourself by achieving something you weren't sure you could do. Perhaps it was learning to drive, giving a presentation, or even something as simple as cooking a meal from scratch. Remember that moment when you realized, blimey, I actually did it. That feeling wasn't just satisfaction. It was your brain updating its database of what you're capable of. The challenge is that we often underestimate our own capacity for growth and achievement. We look at successful people and think they possess some magical quality we lack. But the truth is, they've simply practiced believing in themselves long enough for it to become second nature. They've learned to say, I can do it, not because they're certain of the outcome, but because they're committed to the process. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, that little voice in your head that pipes up every time you dare to dream bigger. You know the one. It sounds remarkably like you, but it specializes in reminding you of every past failure, every reason why you're not qualified, every obstacle that stands in your way. This inner critic isn't necessarily your enemy, though it often feels like it. Understanding where this voice comes from is crucial. From an evolutionary perspective, our brains are wired to keep us safe. And historically, safety meant staying with the tribe and not taking unnecessary risks. This ancient programming doesn't distinguish between the genuine danger of being chased by a predator and the perceived risk of starting a new career or expressing a creative idea. To your primitive brain, both scenarios trigger the same alarm bells. The key isn't to silence this voice entirely. That's neither possible nor advisable. Instead, it's about changing your relationship with it. When that voice says, you can't do this, you can acknowledge it politely and respond with, thank you for trying to keep me safe, but I can do this, and here's how I'm going to prove it. I've learned to think of my inner critic as an overprotective parent. It means well, but it's operating from outdated information. You wouldn't let your mum choose your career based on what she thought was safe when you were 5 years old, would you?
Similarly, you don't have to let your inner critic make decisions based on who you were in the past rather than who you're becoming. One powerful technique I've discovered is to give your inner critic a name. Mine's called Nigel, frightfully pessimistic chap, always worried about what others might think. When Nigel starts nattering on about why I shouldn't try something new, I can say, "Cheers, Nigel, but I've got this." It sounds silly, but this simple act of personification creates distance between you and those limiting thoughts, making them far less powerful.
Here's something that might surprise you. The biggest transformations rarely come from grand gestures or overnight changes. They come from the compound effect of small, consistent actions backed by the belief that I can do it. It's like compound interest for personal development. Seemingly insignificant daily choices accumulate into extraordinary results over time. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine two people with identical goals. Let's say they both want to write a novel. Person A waits for inspiration to strike, for the perfect moment when they feel completely confident and have vast stretches of uninterrupted time. Person B simply commits to writing 200 words a day, regardless of how they feel or how busy they are. They tell themselves, "I can do it." Not about writing the entire novel in a day, but about writing those 200 words. After a year, Person A has perhaps a few scattered notes and a growing sense of frustration. Person B has a completed first draft of roughly 73,000 words. The difference isn't talent or circumstances, it's the daily practice of believing, "I can do this small thing today." This principle applies to everything: fitness, learning new skills, building relationships, advancing your career, or overcoming personal challenges. The magic isn't in believing you can transform your entire life overnight. That's often overwhelming and leads to paralysis. The magic is in believing you can take the next small step, and then the next one after that. I once met a woman who transformed her health by simply committing to walking to the end of her street each day. "I can walk to the end of my street," she told herself. That was manageable, believable. 6 months later, she was running half marathons. She didn't start by believing she could run 13 miles. She started by believing she could walk 100 meters.
Let's talk about something that trips up many people on their journey: the inevitable setbacks and failures. Because here's the thing, saying, "I can do it," doesn't mean everything will go smoothly. In fact, if you're not failing occasionally, you're probably not stretching yourself enough. The difference between people who give up and those who ultimately succeed isn't the absence of failure, it's how they interpret and respond to it. When someone with a strong, "I can do it" mindset encounters a setback, they don't see it as evidence that they're incapable. They see it as data, as feedback, as a redirect rather than a roadblock. I remember attempting to launch my first online course several years ago. I was absolutely convinced it would be brilliant, had visions of thousands of eager students signing up. The reality? 7 people enrolled, and 2 of them were my mum and my sister. By traditional measures, it was a complete failure. But instead of concluding, "I can't do this," I shifted to, "I can do this differently." That failure taught me more about my audience, about marketing, about course creation than any success could have. It was the foundation for everything that came after. The key was maintaining the core belief, I can do it, while being flexible about the how. This is where many people go wrong. They tie their identity and self-worth to specific outcomes rather than to their capacity for growth and adaptation. When the outcome doesn't match their expectations, they conclude they're not cut out for success. But what if failure is simply success in progress? What if every setback is actually a setup for something better? The most successful people I know have failed more than the average person has ever tried. They've just learnt to fail fast, fail forward, and fail better each time. They understand that I can do it isn't a promise of immediate success. It's a commitment to persistence and learning.
While I can do it is ultimately an internal declaration, having the right people around you makes an enormous difference. The energy of the people you spend time with is contagious. Surround yourself with doubters and cynics, and you'll find your own confidence eroding. Surround yourself with believers and achievers, and their optimism and determination will lift you up. This doesn't mean you need to cut off every friend who's ever expressed a concern or offered practical advice, but it does mean being selective about who you share your dreams with, especially in the early stages when they're still fragile and forming. I've learned to categorize the people in my life into 3 groups: the cheerleaders, the coaches, and the critics. Cheerleaders believe in you unconditionally and offer emotional support. Coaches believe in you, but also challenge you to be better and hold you accountable. Critics, well, they're often well-meaning but tend to focus on obstacles and limitations. All 3 types can have value at different times, but when you're building your I can do it muscle, you need more cheerleaders and coaches than critics. You need people who, when you say, I'm thinking of starting a business, or I want to learn photography, or I'm considering a career change, respond with curiosity and encouragement rather than immediately listing all the reasons it might not work. Sometimes this means expanding your social circle intentionally. Join groups, take classes, attend events where you'll meet people who share your interests and ambitions. The internet has made this easier than ever. There are communities for virtually every pursuit imaginable. Remember, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Make sure those 5 people believe in growth, possibility, and the power of I can do it. Right, let's get practical. How do you actually build and maintain an I can do it mindset in daily life? It's all well and good to feel inspired whilst listening to this, but how do you carry that energy into your ordinary Tuesday morning when the alarm goes off and the world feels heavy? First, start your day by declaring what you can do, not what you have to do. Instead of, I have to go to work, try, I can contribute value today. Instead of, I have to exercise, try, I can take care of my body. This subtle shift in language changes your relationship with your responsibilities from burden to opportunity. Second, keep a can-do journal. Each evening, write down 3 things you accomplished that day, no matter how small. This isn't about major achievements. It's about recognizing your daily capacity for action and follow-through. Yesterday, I wrote, I can make a proper cup of tea. I can listen attentively to a friend. And I can learn something new from a podcast. Simple, but it reinforces the pattern of capability.
Third, visualize success, but make it specific and embodied. Don't just imagine having achieved your goal. Imagine the process of achieving it. See yourself taking the actions, feeling the emotions, overcoming the challenges. When your brain has a clear picture of you succeeding, it's more likely to guide your behavior in that direction. Fourth, celebrate small wins immediately. When you follow through on a commitment to yourself, acknowledge it. Do a little victory dance, treat yourself to something nice, or simply say, "Well done me," out loud. This isn't vanity, it's reinforcement. You're training your brain to associate action with positive feelings. Finally, surround yourself with reminders. Put sticky notes where you'll see them. I can do hard things. I am capable of learning. I can figure this out. These aren't just feel-good platitudes, they're programming statements for your subconscious mind. As we come to the end of our time together today, I want you to consider this. Every expert was once a beginner. Every success story started with someone who simply believed they could do it. The difference between where you are now and where you want to be isn't as vast as it might seem. It's bridged by these 3 words: I can do it. But remember, this isn't about blind optimism or ignoring reality. It's about recognizing that you have more capacity for growth, learning, and achievement than you've probably given yourself credit for. It's about understanding that your current limitations are not your permanent address. The world needs what you have to offer. Your unique perspective, your particular combination of skills and experiences, your way of solving problems. These things matter, but they can only make a difference if you believe you can do something meaningful with them. So, tomorrow morning, when you wake up and face whatever challenges await, remember this conversation. Remember that you have the power to choose your response to any situation. You can approach it from a place of limitation and fear, or you can approach it from a place of possibility and confidence. Choose I can do it, not because it guarantees success, but because it guarantees growth. Not because it makes everything easy, but because it makes everything possible. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I genuinely believe you can do whatever it is you're dreaming of doing. The question isn't whether you can, it's whether you will. Until next time, keep believing in yourself. You've got this.